Robert Redford. The name evokes images of charm, talent, and an era of Hollywood that many consider the golden age. From the electrifying charisma of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to the meticulously crafted storytelling of ordinary people, Redford's career spanned decades, shaping the cultural and artistic fabric of a nation. But behind the luminous smile and the camera-ready composure, there was a man who carried both triumph and tragedy, whose later years were colored by personal loss, quiet reflection, and a deliberate retreat from the public eye. While countless tributes have celebrated his cinematic genius, few have delved into the depth of his final days. Days that were not merely the closing chapter of a storied career but a profound period of introspection, grief, and reconciliation with the life he had lived. It was during these years, in the serene isolation of his beloved Sundance, that Redford faced the fragility of existence and the shadows of those he had lost. In this video we will explore the private struggles, the intimate moments of joy and sorrow, and the truths behind his final days. From the echoes of applause on Hollywood sets to the quiet rustle of leaves in a mountain valley, we will trace the journey of a man whose legacy was monumental, yet whose final moments were deeply human. Robert Redford may have left the world on September 16, 2025, but understanding the complexities of his last days allows us not only to mourn the loss of a legend but to appreciate the profound humanity behind the icon. Long before the glittering marquees and the global acclaim, Robert Redford was a boy of modest means, born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California. His childhood was marked by a mixture of curiosity and quiet resilience, a foundation that would later shape the actor and director the world came to revere. Even as a young man, there was something magnetic about his presence, a combination of intellect, charm, and an almost imperceptible intensity that drew people in. Redford's path to stardom was neither immediate nor simple. He experimented with painting, a pursuit that revealed a contemplative side often hidden behind his easygoing demeanor. Yet, fate had a cinematic stage prepared for him. In the 1960s, television roles offered the first glimpses of his talent, but it was the silver screen that would capture the imagination of audiences worldwide. The defining moment came with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1969, where Redford's portrayal of the laconic, cool-headed Sundance cemented his place in Hollywood history. Opposite the legendary Paul Newman, he radiated a blend of charm and understated grit, embodying a new kind of leading man, one who could be heroic yet deeply human, daring yet quietly introspective. The film became more than entertainment. It was a cultural phenomenon, propelling Redford into the spotlight and shaping the public's perception of him for decades to come. He followed this triumph with The Sting, 1973, again pairing with Newman, a film that demonstrated not only his charisma but a keen sense of timing, humor, and nuance. Audiences marveled at his ability to blend sophistication with relatability, and critics hailed him as the embodiment of a Hollywood renaissance, an actor who could carry both blockbuster hits and subtle, character-driven narratives. But Redford was never content to remain solely in front of the camera. The urge to create, to shape stories from conception to completion, drew him into directing. His directorial debut, Ordinary People, 1980, revealed a depth of understanding about human emotion and complexity that few could match. The film, a haunting exploration of grief, guilt, and familial bonds, earned Redford an Academy Award for Best Director, proving that his artistry extended far beyond performance. In parallel, Redford's commitment to nurturing new talent led to the founding of the Sundance Institute in 1981. Through this initiative, he transformed the cinematic landscape, championing independent filmmakers and stories that might otherwise have been overlooked by the Hollywood machine. Sundance became not merely a festival or institution, but a movement, an incubator for creativity and authenticity that challenged conventional narratives and amplified diverse voices. Redford's rise, therefore, was not simply the story of fame achieved. It was the story of a man whose artistry, vision, and relentless curiosity redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood icon. His performances and projects left indelible marks on American cinema, shaping both its past and its future. And yet, even as he reached the pinnacle of success, the shadows of personal loss and the inevitability of time would soon remind him, and the world, that behind the glamour was a deeply human being, grappling with life's complexities in ways that would later define his final years. Even legends, no matter how radiant their public image, are not immune to life's harshest realities. For Robert Redford, the glitter of Hollywood and the applause of audiences could never fully shield him from the heartbreak that would mark his later years. Central among these was the devastating loss of his son, James Redford, in 2020. James, a filmmaker in his own right, had battled bile duct cancer with a courage and determination that mirrored his father's unwavering spirit. Despite the strength of both, the disease claimed him at the age of 58, leaving a void in Robert's life that could never be filled. Friends and family recalled how the usually composed actor and director became a man quietly shattered, retreating from the public eye to grieve in solitude. It was a loss he carried in every fiber of his being, a close friend later shared. You could see it in his eyes, in the way he moved through life after James was gone. He was present but not entirely himself. The grief over James' death was compounded by other, quieter tragedies: the slow passage of time, the ebbing of physical vigor, and the subtle reminders of mortality that accompany advanced age. Yet, in private, Redford displayed an almost meditative resilience. He would spend hours reflecting, painting, walking through the forest surrounding Sundance, and immersing himself in music and literature. These were not mere hobbies. They were lifelines, small anchors that tethered him to the world even as sorrow threatened to overwhelm him. Family members have painted a portrait of a man profoundly devoted yet privately vulnerable. His children and close friends witnessed moments of deep melancholy, often contrasted sharply with the charming, charismatic persona the world knew so well. There was a duality to Redford in these years, a man capable of commanding the screen with effortless magnetism, yet at home, wrestling with grief that demanded quiet and solitude. The contrast between public and private life became increasingly pronounced. Interviews and appearances were less frequent. Red carpets and premieres became rare sightings. Instead, he focused on personal projects, family connections, and quiet philanthropy. Yet even in retreat, he remained aware of his legacy and the responsibilities of his influence. He sought to mentor, to guide younger artists, and to ensure that the stories of independent filmmakers continued to flourish, even as his personal world was narrowing. In these years, Redford's humanity was laid bare. Fame could not insulate him from loss, nor could wealth buffer against the pain of a grieving parent. What the world saw, the poised, silver-haired icon, was only part of the picture. Beneath the calm exterior lay a man grappling with the profound weight of love, loss, and the relentless passage of time. The period following James' death marked a turning point in Redford's later life. It was a time when reflection became paramount, where the urgency of legacy intertwined with the fragility of human existence. And it is within this quiet, contemplative frame that the story of his final years truly begins. A story of resilience, sorrow, and ultimately, a reckoning with mortality that would define his last days. After decades in the unforgiving glare of Hollywood lights, Robert Redford found solace in the stillness of Sundance, Utah, a place that had become not merely a sanctuary, but a sanctuary of the soul. Nestled among pine-covered slopes and sweeping valleys, Redford's retreat was emblematic of the life he sought in his final years: contemplative, private, and grounded in nature. Here, the world of glitz and public expectation felt distant, almost unreal, replaced by the rhythms of wind, water, and the passage of sunlight across mountains. Each day began with ritual and routine. He would wake early, often before the sun, and step into the crisp mountain air. Long walks along winding trails were both exercise and meditation, moments to reflect on the breadth of a life lived under public scrutiny yet fiercely protected in private. Friends visiting during these years often noted how he embraced silence, not as emptiness, but as an opportunity to recalibrate, a contrast to the constant noise of his earlier career. Despite his retreat from the limelight, Redford remained deeply engaged with the creative world. He immersed himself in projects that sparked curiosity and passion rather than commercial gain. Among these was his involvement with Dark Winds, a television series adaptation of Tony Hillerman's novels, which showcased his enduring eye for storytelling and his commitment to nurturing projects that reflected cultural depth and nuance. He also participated in a subtle, playful cameo alongside George R. R. Martin, signaling that even in retirement, his connection to narrative and imagination remained alive and vigorous. Health, however, was an inescapable reality. Although there were no widely publicized medical crises, those close to Redford spoke of the natural challenges of aging, the gradual diminishment of energy, minor ailments, and the ongoing management of well-being that comes with the later decades of life. Friends recalled his discipline, careful attention to diet, daily walks, and the occasional swim, all undertaken with a measured awareness of both physical limits and the importance of vitality. Family remained a central pillar of these years. While he had retreated from public appearances, he welcomed visits from children, grandchildren, and lifelong friends, engaging in quiet conversations over morning coffee or long dinners by a roaring fireplace. It was in these intimate moments that Redford's humanity, often masked by Hollywood's glamour, was fully apparent, a man of warmth, humor, and unguarded reflection, delighting in stories, debates, and even gentle mischief. Yet, despite the peace of Sundance and the joy of familial connections, there was an unmistakable awareness of time's passage. The mountains, enduring and eternal, seemed to offer both comfort and a quiet reminder of life's impermanence. Redford faced this reality with the same dignity and introspection that had defined his life, accepting the inevitability of aging while savoring the clarity and richness of each remaining day. It was in this careful balance, between solitude and connection, reflection and creation, health and inevitable decline, that Redford spent his final years. Sundance was more than a retreat, it was a crucible of memory and meaning, a place where the arc of a remarkable life could converge quietly, away from the glare of cameras and applause. Here, he prepared not only for the projects that still stirred his imagination but, unknowingly, for the final chapter that awaited him. One that would close the life of a Hollywood legend with the same grace, mystery, and poignancy that had characterized every stage of his extraordinary journey. Even in the quietude of Sundance, the world outside never completely faded from Robert Redford's consciousness. Though he had largely withdrawn from public life, he remained a figure of fascination, an enduring symbol of cinematic history whose presence was felt wherever his films had left their mark. In these final days, every gesture, every subtle interaction, carried the weight of a lifetime spent under the gaze of millions. Redford's last public appearance occurred several months before his passing, at a private screening for a new independent documentary that he had helped mentor through the Sundance Institute. Clad in a simple blazer, his silver hair brushed back and his eyes still gleaming with quiet intelligence, he received the applause with humility rather than showmanship. Those in attendance recall the understated dignity of the moment. Redford spoke briefly, offering encouragement to young filmmakers, and then retreated quietly, leaving the crowd with a sense of reverent awe. It was a reminder of the man he had always been: charismatic without needing to dominate, generous without seeking recognition, and profoundly aware of the stories that mattered beyond his own. Media coverage of this appearance was respectful yet tinged with nostalgia. Fans flooded social media with images and memories, celebrating not only his contributions to cinema but the wisdom he had imparted in his final interactions. Even in stepping away from the limelight, Redford managed to leave a lasting impression, a testament to a life lived with both artistry and integrity. In the months leading up to his death, Redford's health began to subtly decline. Friends and family noted occasional fatigue, slower mobility, and the natural fragility that accompanies advanced age. Though there were no reports of acute illness or major hospitalizations, those closest to him understood that his body was gradually yielding to time. He maintained a routine designed to sustain strength and vitality: morning walks, mindful nutrition, and moments of reflection, but there was an unspoken awareness that each day was increasingly precious. Despite these physical limitations, Redford continued to engage with the creative world. He read scripts, mentored young filmmakers remotely, and offered guidance to projects he believed in. His mind remained sharp, even as his body showed signs of vulnerability, a juxtaposition that underscored both the grace and inevitability of life's final chapter. On the morning of September 16, 2025, Robert Redford passed away peacefully in his sleep at his home in Sundance. Surrounded by the serene landscapes he had come to love and the warmth of family nearby, his departure was gentle, almost imperceptible, a quiet conclusion to a life defined by both intensity and subtlety. Those closest to him described the moment as bittersweet: sorrow for the loss, yet relief that he had left the world without struggle or suffering. News of his passing spread quickly, met with shock, grief, and an outpouring of tributes from around the globe. Fans, colleagues, and fellow artists reflected on the magnitude of his impact, both on screen and behind the scenes. Social media, television broadcasts, and print media recounted his achievements, yet what resonated most was the humanity behind the legend: a man who had faced personal tragedies, nurtured creative voices, and ultimately departed with quiet dignity. The final days of Robert Redford were, in many ways, a reflection of his entire life, a delicate balance of visibility and introspection, of artistic brilliance and personal humility. In his retreat to Sundance, in his encouragement of others, and in the peaceful manner of his passing, he left a legacy that transcended fame. A legacy not merely of films and accolades, but of a life fully lived, thoughtfully considered, and profoundly felt. The world awoke on September 16, 2025, to the news that Robert Redford, the iconic figure whose presence had defined generations of American cinema, had passed away. The announcement reverberated across continents, sparking a wave of grief, remembrance, and reflection. It was a moment that reminded the public not only of his artistic achievements but of the profound humanity behind the legend. From Hollywood studios to independent film circles, reactions poured in with a mix of sorrow and reverence. Social media platforms quickly became digital memorials, with fans sharing clips of his most memorable roles, personal anecdotes, and expressions of gratitude for his contributions. Journalists and critics reflected on the arc of his career, emphasizing how he had redefined the possibilities of cinematic storytelling. The entertainment industry, in particular, paused to honor a man who had not only graced screens with brilliance but had nurtured the growth of countless filmmakers. Tributes flowed from directors, actors, and producers who had collaborated with him over decades. Each message echoed a common sentiment: admiration for his talent, respect for his integrity, and awe at the enduring influence of his work. Tributes were as diverse as they were heartfelt. At the Sundance Film Festival, a spontaneous moment of silence was observed, recognizing the institution that Redford had built from the ground up. Filmmakers who had received support and mentorship from him spoke publicly, describing Redford as a guiding force whose encouragement often meant the difference between obscurity and recognition. Hollywood veterans, from his co-stars in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to colleagues from later directorial ventures, released statements reflecting both personal affection and professional respect. Many emphasized Redford's ability to balance artistic integrity with compassion, a trait that had made him a revered figure not only on set but in life. Fans worldwide organized online vigils and tribute pages, celebrating his legacy through screenings, shared stories and personal reflections. Amid the public mourning, Redford's family faced their private grief with quiet dignity. They released a brief statement expressing both sorrow and gratitude. Sorrow for the loss of a beloved father, grandfather and husband, and gratitude for the global outpouring of love and respect. They requested privacy during this profoundly emotional time, a reflection of the family's long-standing desire to separate the personal from the public spectacle, a distinction that Robert Redford himself had always valued. Family members described him in intimate terms, a man of warmth, humor and unwavering support, whose influence extended far beyond the silver screen. The grief they felt was compounded by the decades of shared memories, joys and struggles. Yet even in their sorrow, there was a sense of peace in knowing that he had passed surrounded by the serenity of the mountains he cherished and the family he adored. The aftermath of Robert Redford's death was thus a dual narrative, one of public celebration and mourning, and one of private reflection and loss. It was a testament to a life lived fully, both in the spotlight and in the quieter moments that defined his personal world. His passing not only marked the end of an era in Hollywood but also underscored the enduring power of a life devoted to creativity, mentorship, and human connection. Robert Redford's death marked the close of a life that was as influential behind the camera as it was in front of it. While his performances captivated audiences worldwide, it is the combination of his cinematic contributions, philanthropic endeavors, and deeply human personal legacy that truly defines the enduring mark he left on the world. Redford's impact on cinema is immeasurable. He was not merely an actor who brought charm and intensity to the screen, he was a storyteller who understood the heartbeat of human emotion. Films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting showcased his ability to balance charisma with depth, while his directorial work, most notably Ordinary People, revealed an acute sensitivity to the human condition. Beyond individual films, Redford reshaped the landscape of American filmmaking. By founding the Sundance Institute, he created a platform that celebrated independent voices, providing opportunities for filmmakers who otherwise might have been overlooked by mainstream studios. Directors such as Steven Soderbergh, Quentin Tarantino, and many others benefited from this nurturing ecosystem, ensuring that the influence of Redford's vision extended far beyond his own performances. His work demonstrated that cinema could be both commercially successful and intellectually profound. Redford championed projects that combined artistry with authenticity, encouraging a generation of filmmakers to pursue truth in storytelling, even when it meant challenging conventions or defying expectations. Redford's legacy was not confined to the world of film. He was a committed environmentalist, dedicating significant effort to preserving natural landscapes, raising awareness about climate change, and supporting initiatives that promoted sustainability. Through both public advocacy and private philanthropy, he sought to protect the very wilderness that had inspired his artistic sensibilities and offered him personal solace. The Sundance Institute itself was an extension of Redford's philanthropic vision, a testament to his belief in nurturing creativity as a form of social good. By providing mentorship, resources, and platforms for emerging talent, he created a ripple effect that would influence generations of storytellers and audiences alike. His legacy in this regard is not merely the films he made, but the countless stories he enabled others to tell. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of Redford's legacy lies in the man behind the public persona. Those who knew him personally describe a man of humility, curiosity, and profound integrity. He was fiercely loyal to family and friends, often prioritizing their well-being over the demands of fame. His wit, warmth, and generosity left indelible impressions on everyone who encountered him. Redford's final years, spent in quiet reflection at Sundance, reveal a figure who understood the fleeting nature of life and the importance of living with intention. He embraced solitude not as isolation but as a means to contemplate, create, and connect meaningfully with those he loved. In this way, his legacy transcends cinema. It is a model for living a life that is both purposeful and compassionate. Ultimately, Robert Redford will be remembered not only as an actor, director, and philanthropist but as a man whose life embodied the ideals of artistry, humanity, and stewardship. His films continue to inspire, his philanthropic endeavors endure, and his personal example remains a testament to the possibility of balancing success with integrity, ambition with empathy, and public acclaim with private authenticity. As the sun dips behind the rugged peaks of the Utah mountains, casting long shadows over the valleys of Sundance, one cannot help but reflect on the extraordinary life of Robert Redford. His journey, from the boyhood dreams in Santa Monica to the heights of Hollywood stardom, and ultimately to the serene retreat of his final years, was a tapestry woven with talent, vision, triumph, and sorrow. Redford's life was marked by a remarkable duality. He existed simultaneously as a public icon and a deeply private individual, navigating fame with grace while confronting personal tragedies with quiet resilience. He reshaped American cinema through both his performances and his directorial achievements, but he also shaped the lives of countless artists through mentorship and the creation of the Sundance Institute. He demonstrated that true legacy is not measured solely by accolades or box office numbers, but by the opportunities one creates for others and the integrity with which one lives. His final days, spent amidst the tranquil beauty of the mountains he loved, reflect a man at peace with both his accomplishments and his mortality. He faced the inevitability of life's end with dignity, surrounded by the silence and reflection he had long cherished. It was a fitting conclusion to a life lived on his own terms, a man whose presence had illuminated the screens of the world, yet whose essence remained deeply human, vulnerable, and profoundly inspiring. In remembering Robert Redford, we are reminded of the complexity of greatness. His legacy encompasses cinematic brilliance, artistic innovation, environmental stewardship, and unwavering personal integrity. It is a legacy that continues to resonate, not only in the films he made or the institutions he built, but in the countless lives he touched with his generosity, mentorship, and example. As the camera slowly pans across the sweeping landscapes of Sundance, the wind whispering through the pines and the mountains standing eternal, the story comes full circle. Robert Redford may have left us, but his stories, both on and off the screen, will continue to inspire generations, a testament to a life lived with courage, creativity, and unwavering authenticity. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life and final days of Robert Redford, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more exclusive, detailed stories about legendary figures and the truths behind their lives. Stay updated and be part of our community exploring history, fame, and the human stories that shape the world.